They say that all good things must come to an end. As 2012 comes to a close, so does this season's QiRanger podcast. The last episode starts now. Greetings and salutations, my excellent friends. Welcome back to the QiRanger podcast one final time in 2012. This is episode 19. Thank you so much for joining me this week. Thank you for watching on YouTube. Thank you so much for downloading the audio version both at QiRanger.com and of course on iTunes. This year has been something very special, and to be perfectly honest, I couldn't do it without you. I really appreciate your support. It has been an awesome experience, and I hope your holidays have been excellent and that the new year brings you nothing but awesome sauce. Let's get started as we do every week with the news, and the first story is about Park Geun-hye, the president-elect of Korea. Her father was a military dictator through a lot of the economic growth of Korea. In fact, he is responsible, I feel, for where we are today in Korea. His policies, while brutal at times, did lay the foundation for bringing up Korea economically. During the election campaign, North Korea was just adamant, saying that if a Saenuri Party candidate was elected, specifically Park Geun-hye, it would sour the relations. They finally come out with an official statement. Let me read it to you. The Saenuri Party, in its recent election campaign at the Plaza of Gwanghwamun in Seoul, seriously defamed the dignity of the supreme leadership of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, while criticizing the candidate from the opposition party. It should be noted that relations are not expected to improve under the leadership of Park Geun-hye, especially when you take into consideration that North Korea killed her mother and had several attempts on her father. I don't know what's going to come about this. I really don't think that the direction that North Korea is going in at the moment is going to foster positive relations with South Korea, no matter who would have been elected president. It's just not going to happen anytime soon. In some other stories, South Korea has suspended the imports of Brazilian beef, becoming the sixth country to do so after a 2-year-old development of mad cow disease in Brazil. Now, personally, this I found quite shocking because as I go out and eat in several restaurants around Seoul and around Korea, I either see homegrown beef or beef imported from Australia, and in some cases the United States. Not really Brazil. So this story caught me off guard, and I really find it interesting that South Korea has now joined China, Japan, South Africa, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia. So hopefully Brazil will get mad cow disease under control so that we can resume exports, or imports rather. They can resume exporting to all 6 countries. And hopefully that will also lower the price of beef here in Korea. Because let me tell you, it's expensive. Now, to give you an idea of how expensive beef is here in Korea, in the United States, I could get a pound of ground beef for maybe $1 or $2 per pound. So we're talking 500 grams. Here in Korea, we're looking at almost 2,000 won, $2 per 100 gram. Per 100 gram, making it $10 a pound. It's one of the reasons why when Joe and I cook beef, it's usually for special occasions, or we have to find a really good deal, or specifically, we tend to buy it from Costco because they have the cheapest beef in Korea that we found. And then very sad move, and I am very adamant about calling it sad. I think it's a backward stance in the terms of what should be done in Seoul, but Seoul's newly elected educational chief is set to reverse the city's human rights ordinance. Now, this is what he's going to do, and it's specifically targeting homosexuality and homosexuals. He says schools need to teach that homosexuality mustn't take place in schools. They mustn't teach that you have the right to be homosexual. Let me just be clear about this. Let me just put it out in the open. I firmly disagree with this. 150,000%. Homosexuality is not a choice. It is a state of nature. When you look at the science, every single mammalian species exhibits same-sex tendencies. It isn't a choice. People are born with homosexual tendencies just as they are with heterosexual tendencies. It's just a state of being. Coming out and saying that you cannot be homosexual and it should not be taught is ludicrous. It's not something that's taught. You simply are. And this goes against everything I am, and I really have a problem with people being elected into office that are so narrow-minded and, quite frankly, stupid that they do not understand the facts. This person is going to cause a lot of problems. Homosexuality in Korea is already such a taboo that several people have committed suicide after coming out because of the hate that is forced upon them. This ordinance, when it was in effect, was the first step in trying to alleviate some of the bullying and some of, well, quite frankly, the terror people had in terms of coming out and being found out as being homosexual. This cannot happen. If this ordinance is reversed, if it is backtracked to include this language that homosexuality shouldn't be tolerated, it's going to cause a whole bunch of problems, and quite frankly, I think it's going to lower South Korea's tourism revenue, tourism being thought of as a destination, and status in the world. It is completely backward thinking and a sign that Korea really isn't ready to move forward on the world stage. Some other news coming out with Park Geun-hye in control. Many think that there will be little change in the chaebols that run the country. Now, the chaebols are the big corporations, the conglomerates that really have their hands into everything. And I saw a story that was released that was really interesting, that as the chaebols have continued to grow in power, the Gini index, or the Gini ratio for distribution of worth has actually risen, meaning that there is more disparity between the haves and the haves-not in the last few years, and it's quite alarming that under Park Geun-hye it's expected that that will be the case for years to come. In a story that just recently came out, I get a lot of questions about how much housing is here in Korea. Now, in Seoul, they estimate that for a moderately sized apartment, I think something along the size of 89 square meters, that the chunse, or the massive key money deposit that allows you to live rent-free for a year, the interest on that deposit is what pays the mortgage, is estimated to be $250,000. Meaning that if a family, if a single person or a person with their spouse is making $50,000 a year and they weren't spending money on anything, no taxes, no medicine, no nothing, not eating, I mean, how could you live for 5 years without eating? Yes, it would take you 5 years to save enough money, well, actually not even to save enough money, to earn enough money to make a deposit without taking out a loan. It's a sign that the housing crisis in Seoul and around Korea is really expected to come to a bursting point within the next couple of years. It is so expensive to lay down money on a house that a lot of people are forced to take out a loan simply to make a deposit. So then they're forced with having to make the monthly payments, the wholesale, the monthly rent, and a massive deposit. We also see a lot of wholesale apartments coming on the market now, meaning that people are opting to pay for a lower amount and then making that monthly payment. But even then, it's a humongous burden. There was one story earlier this year where I think most families in Seoul were stated as paying out roughly 150% of what they make a month when you factor in rent and hagwons, or private academies for their kids. So Korea is fastly becoming a debt nation, and that is not a good thing. And a new defense paper, the Republic of Korea, has reaffirmed that it will firmly protect the northern limit line as well as Dokdo. Now, the northern limit line is the westerly imaginary line extending out from the DMZ that separates North and South Korea. Since the DMZ was put into effect, North Korea has never really had a strong feeling, a strong tie to the northern limit line. And in fact, couple years ago, that's where the tunnel was sunk near the northern limit line. They don't really admit that that is the border between the two nations, and it's frequently a sign of skirmishes, mainly because it is resource rich, especially when it comes to fish. Over on the east side of the nation, we have Dokdo, and Korea has once again reaffirmed that that is Korean territory, and rightly so, and are going to move forward in actively protecting it from any other disputes, most notably with Japan. So that was good to hear that as certain nations around the East Asia area step up disputed areas, Korea is also going to look at protecting their territory. In taking a page from the United States, netizens have begun circulating a petition to curb welfare payouts to the seniors. Now, what's happening here is Park Geun-hye was largely elected because of her election base, her constituency, and that was projected to be among older Koreans. Now, Korea is having a negative birth rate, so there are fewer younger people. The middle-aged and older population are continuing to balloon, and more are going into situations where they draw their pensions, they draw other benefits from the state, like not having to pay for subway rides. The younger generation and the netizens that are part of that group are calling for a massive cut in mandatory pension payouts and free rides. And I have to say that on one side of the spectrum, it makes a lot of sense. As you have a blossoming population, more and more money is going into paying those benefits. At the same time, you have a shrinking younger population, so the money going into the funds is evaporating, just like in the United States, where Social Security, you have the baby boomers coming in and taking their benefits and not enough money going into it. But one of the things that doesn't make a lot of sense is when you think about the elderly here in Korea, they typically don't have the highest paying jobs, or they were not well educated as today's youth are. So they don't have a lot of pension support. They don't have a lot of retirement savings, so they aren't as well to do. So providing them the subsidies that the government currently does is a way of protecting the population, and that is something that I firmly believe that the government has a responsibility to do. If you are a citizen of a country, if you've paid your taxes, if you've contributed to society, I believe the government has a responsibility to set certain things up to protect you in your age, in your declining years, shall we say. I'm not sure what the correct balance is, but I think it's incredibly short-sighted for the youth, and especially these netizens, to just say, cut the programs without offering a way to find a solution for what's going on. And in one final story for South Korea, again, the United States. They have okayed the sales of several spy drones to the Republic of Korea. Now, these are reconnaissance drones expected to be put into place in and around the DMZ to help minimize the exposure to human troops, to keep an eye on North Korea. They're continuing to develop their missile program, their nuclear arms program, their cyber warfare program. It's really important for the ROK, the Republic of Korea, to keep an eye on what's going on the northern side of the border, especially since they have a massive amount of troops. And as I have noted earlier in the program, relationship with North Korea is not expected to blossom into anything that's going to be touchy-feely and happy over the next 5 years. So I think this is a good purchase. I'm not really sure what effect it's going to have. I mean, when you think about it, you have drones. You have drones flying in the DMZ. You have a trigger-happy nation to the north because they repeatedly shoot down things when they get a chance. So you have a potential international incident here where a drone flies in and around the DMZ. North Korea sees it and says, hey, let's take a pot shot at it. Boom. They fire. Either they hit it and it falls on North Korean territory, and then they get to play the propaganda card and saying, hey, we shot down a U.S. South Korean drone. Look what we got, blah, 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 and try to bully the U.S. and South Korea into giving them something that they want. Or worse, they shoot at it, miss the drone, it shells someplace in South Korea, causing another shooting skirmish. And South Korea has already said that if something is shot on South Korean land again, they are going to respond with force. So the pessimist in me says, I'm all for reconnaissance, but this has a huge potential to go really sideways, and that's not something I want to see. So let's go ahead and talk about some news out of North Korea. Now, Kim Jong-un has urged North Korean scientists to start work on new and more sophisticated rockets. They recently launched the missile that carried the satellite into orbit. It's thought to be mostly stable, possibly not going to hit anything else and cause who knows what kind of problems if it hits another satellite and that crashes to Earth. But South Korea is currently examining the remnants, the debris, the leftover rocket parts that they were able to collect from this missile launch. And what they've been able to find is that the stuff that made up this rocket, the building nuts and bolts of it, what was it actually constructed with, wasn't really that advanced. And the thought is, while they're able to shoot this long-range missile and get something into space, something that South Korea has not been able to do, and some even say that the missile could be tweaked into a long-range weapon and hit the west coast of the United States. I'm not quite sure I really buy into that. But they think that there's a long way to go for better guided missiles from North Korea. Better technology certainly needs to be employed, but that's not stopping Kim Jong-un. Kim Jong-un, he has bragging rights over the South in terms of having a long-range missile, purported again 6,500 miles. Out of the two Koreas, they're the only ones that have got something in this space. So being that focused on spaceflight gives him a lot of credit and a lot of props on that side of the border to try and really boost the program. I really hope that when the next South Korean launch happens, that it is successful, it's able to get into orbit, and South Korea can join the space club. I think that in terms of technology, South Korea is far, far more advanced than North Korea, but time will tell what really happens with missile launches here on the peninsula. And one final story out of North Korea that just came out this past Wednesday. They believe they have finally found out what sent Kim Jong-il over the edge and finally killed him. Now, he was on his way back from China, and reportedly, what the Chosun Ilbo is reporting is that he got news that a very important hydroelectric dam had a leak. And that this dam was set up to provide extra power to the capital, Pyongyang, to curb blackouts and to make sure that the capital had enough power. And they found some leaks in it. And apparently what the story is he flew off the handle and got into such a fit of rage that his heart gave out. Now, I can't confirm that, but that's the story that came out. So after all this time, a year later, we may finally be learning what killed Kim Jong-il. So let's take one final look at East Asian news. The Osaka District Court has sentenced a nationalist to 1 year in prison over a hate campaign against a pharmaceutical firm which had a South Korean actress as its public figure. Now, Hitoshi Nishimura, who was 44, and 3 other men barged into the headquarters of the Hoto Pharmaceutical in the city of Osaka this past March and angrily demanded to know why the company was using Kim Tae-hee in its commercials. They claimed that Kim was an anti-Japanese activist who had been involved in a campaign asserting South Korean sovereignty over what the Japanese call Takashima, what we in Korea call Dokdo, and Nishimura will be imprisoned for 1 year for using such threatening behavior. Now, I don't know why. Both sides of the aisle, both Korea and Japan, get really fervent over the disputed lands. And to me, it seems... I understand why both countries are heated about it. But Dokdo is managed by Korea. We have people on the ground there. For many in Japan to continue to assert that it's Japanese territory, that they get so upset about it, just seems really ludicrous to me, because nothing can be done. We have the island, it's our territory, historically it's our territory, and as I alluded to earlier this year, if you look at the criteria for the International Court of Justice, who manages it in terms of effective control plays a major role in arbitration as far as the International Court is concerned, as whose territory it really is. It's closer to Korea. We have people there. Therefore, it's Korean territory. Let it go. If you look at the historical documents, there's no way you could call it Japanese territory. I'm glad this guy got a year for it, for going off the handle on really a pharmaceutical company choosing to use a Korean actress. Now, if you live in Japan, you know that K-pop is huge there, and just like in Korea, we call upon the idols to do a lot of advertising, and that's all that they're doing there. In some other news, a unanimous decision came out in the board of Japan's central bank to unleash another 10 trillion yen, which equates to about 119 billion US dollars, into a new monetary stimulus package. Now, it's widely expected the move will help Asia's second largest economy to combat the chronic deflation and economic contrition that's happening there. Hopefully, the move will help spur growth in Japan's economy, because Japan economy has faced a critical challenge of overcoming deflation this past year, and the challenge will be met through a combination of efforts by a wide range of economic agents to strengthen the economy to hopefully become more stable and lead to growth. I've mentioned several times that Japan, China, and Korea are very closely intertwined when it comes to imports and exports and the way that business is conducted here in East Asia. And for one nation to fall into recession, as it appears Japan may be doing, could have very detrimental effects both in China and here in Korea. So I hope that this move does bring about a positive change. And finally, both China and the Republic of Korea are extending their exclusive economic zones on the East China Shelf. Now, this is referred to as the EEZ. It's an area outside the actual mainland where both countries want to say that they extend their economic power, they extend their governance. Think of it as a maritime border of sorts for the economy. The UN, because these countries are both members of the UN requires nations that when you extend more than 200 miles off your shore, you have to file a paper, a report with the United Nations. Now, unfortunately, because China and Republic of Korea are in such close proximity, these zones are now overlapping and could cause potential problems. I mentioned before that China has kind of reshaped what they view their territory is in the South China Sea, including a lot of lands that the Philippines lay claim to. And so much for that they put this new map in Chinese passports, and the Philippines is now refusing anyone into the country with those passports. So hopefully things will not lead to an escalation in terms of tension, or especially around the disputed areas between both China, Japan, and South Korea. But time will only tell. So there you have it. That is the news this week. If you are looking for more news from East Asia, since there won't be any more podcasts of this nature coming out on the QiRanger channel, I will still be covering news, both on the QiRanger channel and on the vlog channel, depending on when videos are set to release for other projects. So make sure you subscribe to both channels, and that way I can keep you apprised of all the news coming out of East Asia, as well as my thoughts on the relevancy that will have both for those living here in the region and for those abroad. Welcome back to the podcast. It is time for the Content Rewind. And in honor of the Content Rewind, I raise my glass to you. For those listening, sorry you can't see this, but I have a glass of Bullet Bourbon here. So good. Bullet Bourbon. Thank you again, John, for sending that to me. I really, really do appreciate it. That was Friday's video. Bullet Bourbon review, a great bottle. I love the bottle of it. The raised lettering is fantastic. So that was Friday's video, just a quick vlog bourbon review. I hope to do some more reviews of products here on the QiRanger channel, as well as some other beverage reviews as they come in. I have one more coming up, and I think that may come about in February. I think I'm going to hold off on that for a little bit later. But it was just a little fun video to shoot. Again, thank you so much for sending that to me, John. The main video this past week was, of course, kimchi bokkeumbap. Oh yeah, kimchi bokkeumbap, kimchi fried rice. The last video of the series, oh, it was so nice to be able to cook that. Now, I did not cook it. I will admit, I did not cook it. And the reason why I did not cook it myself is because my wife, Jo, has some of the most amazing knife skills I have ever seen. So I asked her to actually prepare it because it's her recipe. We've gone to several different Korean restaurants and Korean cooking classes, and she was able to piece together the different elements of those recipes to create her own version of kimchi bokkeumbap. Now, personally, Jo and I both think that making kimchi bokkeumbap is best with pork, but we didn't have any pork with us, so we used the beef that we had on hand, and we made it, and it was so good. Oh. It took, I want to say, maybe an hour and a half total between all the chopping and preparation to actually make the bokkeumbap itself. So it's not really a time-conducive recipe if you are short on that element. It's also quite expensive if you are here in Korea. Now, I mentioned in the news portion how expensive beef is. So we use 500 grams of beef. So that's about, I would say, what, $10 there just for the meat. And then you factor in everything for the vegetables. Considering you can go into a restaurant and have that for, have 2 servings for $8 to $10, you can see that it's actually a little bit cheaper to go to a restaurant and have kimchi bokkeumbap there than it is to prepare it for yourself here in Korea. So as much as I like cooking for myself, that's one of the reasons why we don't do it all that often, because it's so much cheaper to go out and about to have the food rather than to prepare it ourselves. The other video that I put up this week over on the vlog channel was the QuickPod unboxing. Again, thank you to the folks over at QuickPod for sending that. I really wanted to get a monopod to use while we go diving in the Philippines. And I was doing a lot of research, and I really like the reputation that QuickPod had, and I really like the product lines that they had. So I asked them, I said, hey, I'm a journalist here in South Korea. I would like to review one of your products. I'm going on vacation doing some diving. I have a GoPro, and I really want to see how well it performs. Would you mind sending me one to review? And they agreed, and I'm really looking forward to trying it this January while we're in the Philippines to see how well it really performs. Now, in the unboxing video, I did include a little test at the end. I have to say, it really is a little bit odd having this huge monopod sticking out in front of you while you're walking around. I can totally see the benefit for it, but it's also something that is going to take a little bit of time getting used to. After I put up that video, one of the owners of the company contacted me, thanking me for putting it up, but also giving me some extra tips I'm going to give you right now. Now, the first tip they recommended is when you stick it out and you're holding it, to film yourself, put the bottom of the tripod in your pant pocket, in your jeans. It helps you steady it just a little bit more. So if you don't have the cushion that came with my model, you have a way of holding it steady. And I think that's a great opportunity to, stabilize it so it doesn't, have the tendency to swing about as much when you walk. So I'll give that tip to you. Yeah, so that was, I'm looking forward to it. It's a great tool, and I'm stoked that it's waterproof, and I can't wait to go scuba diving. I'm so excited to go scuba diving, not only just to get wet, but also to use this and to film myself, Joe, and whatever else we come across under the deep blue sea. And finally, this wasn't so much one of my videos, but a series of adventures I had this past week. Idami, who does the Live in Korea segment for Korea Today, was on vacation, and she asked me to fill in for this week. And for the past week, Monday through Thursday, I was getting up between 3 and 4 a.m. and going all over Seoul and Gyeonggi Province to do live remotes for the show. And I have to say, it was a little bit more challenging than I thought it would be. But I have to say also, it was a whole bunch of fun. I've never been so cold in my life, nor have I had so much fun. It was a great deal of fun. I'm saying fun a lot because that's how much I enjoy it. The team I worked with was fantastic. Having the Bluetooth in my ear and hearing the program and the cues to go live and standby, here we go. It was just riveting. Every time it was getting ready to come to me, I could feel my heart beating. It's like, all right, here we go. Yeah, so it was great. Over on my website, QiRanger.com, I'm trying to post as many of the video clips as I can as they become available on the Arirang YouTube channel. But in the show notes also is the link to Arirang Today, which was the old name for Korea Today. And you can scroll through and see where I am for Live in Korea? That's the segment. Live in Korea, so you can see where that takes place. You can also, if you have not Wi-Fi connection, but a good internet connection, you can go to the Arirang website and actually watch the entire program, the 24th, the 25th, the 26th, and 27th, to watch the entire program and see my connections in there. The only problem that we had, of course I'm recording this on Wednesday and I have one more episode to go, but on Wednesday we went down to Ansong, Gyeonggi Province, where it was -16, -20 with the wind chill. It was so cold that the microphone, so the handheld microphone, the wireless handheld microphone, the handheld that plugs into the camera, and my wireless lav mic, they all froze. So, and at one time, they couldn't even connect to the camera. The actual backpack transmitter lost the connection. It was bad. It was really bad. I thought maybe we were going to be able to connect it all that day, but ultimately we got to go through. I did a little ice fishing. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, Murphy's Law. If anything can go wrong, it certainly will. So there you have it. That's this week's Content Rewind. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the podcast. It is time for the Quintessential Quartet. And since we're doing it old school this week, I raise my glass to you. Again, John, thank you for the bourbon. Fantastic stuff. Fantastic stuff. Oh, yeah. All right, this week on the Quintessential Quartet, since we just finished Christmas, we're approaching New Year's. We love to go to parties. We love to eat. And unfortunately, that means sometimes we gain a little weight. So this week on the Quintessential Quartet, we're going to talk about some strategies on losing that holiday poundage. That's right, tips for losing weight. So tip number 1, the 4 things you need to know and my recommendations for losing weight. Number 1, set a realistic goal. Seriously, a lot of us pack on the pounds and we have an idea that we want to weigh X amount. We have that idea that this is how much we should weigh. And sometimes that is a good estimate, and sometimes it's quite frankly unrealistic. So the folks over at Reader's Digest said that one thing you should do is set a realistic goal and focus on losing 1 or 2 pounds a week. So no more than 10 pounds a month. And after you lose that 10 pounds, try to maintain it for, they say 6 months, but realistically, who's going to lose 10 pounds? If you're trying to lose 20, 30 pounds, you're not going to say, oh, all right, I lost 10 pounds. I'm going to plateau for 6 months and then keep on going. No. But seriously, focus on doing it at a reasonable rate. 1 to 2 pounds a week is what you can do. When you focus on making a lifestyle change by changing the way you eat, changing the way that you exercise, doing it in terms of baby steps is the way that those changes become permanent. And if you slowly reduce the weight, you're more likely to keep it off. So set a realistic goal. Don't say you need to lose 100 pounds. Don't say you need to lose 200 pounds. Say I need to lose X pounds, which brings me to idea number 2, the second thing you need to know. A lot of people say pick a value that's 10% of what you want to lose. Have that be your first goal, your milestone. Go in baby steps, 1 to 2 pounds per week, and at 10% increments. That's where you draw the line and try to plateau that for a little bit. You usually have a greater amount of success if you follow those 2 things. So really, as we come across January 2nd and we realize, okay, I need to start exercising, I need to start losing weight. Those are 2 things to keep in mind because you're more bound to be successful in the long run. Number 3 is reduce your eating portions by 1/3. So if you're going out and eating, no matter where you are, look at your plate and reduce it by 1/3. Do it for lunch, do it for dinner. If you're out at a restaurant, take that portion home, have it for lunch the next day. Hopefully, by doing that alone, you'll be reducing your caloric intake by about maybe 500 calories. And that goes into number 4, which is getting some exercise. A lot of people come to me and they say, what's the best way to lose weight? And I always say, eat less, exercise more. So if you follow step number 3 and reduce your portions by 1/3 and then increase your exercise a little bit, you're bound to lose weight at an effective pace that is long lasting. Now, how much should you exercise? There are a lot of pundits out there that throw around a lot of ideas. But personally, I believe that if you exercise 3 to 5 times a week, 30 minutes to an hour, can be just walking around the block. But dedicating that time to walk, you're more inclined to make a positive lifestyle change and build up your metabolism to burn the extra fat away. That you'll burn the extra calories, you'll drop the weight faster. Now, a lot of people will also say, hey, I walk a lot during the day, I do a lot of things during the day, that's my exercise. And I'll come back and say, yes, that is great exercise, but you want to lose the weight. You want to do something in and above your normal daily activities. So by dedicating this extra time, will go along with reducing your caloric intake to help you drop the pounds faster and actually make a permanent change in your life. So those are the 4 things I have for you this week on how to lose weight. Thanks for all your suggestions this season on the Quintessential Quartet. We'll be back in just a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to set course for adventure one final time this season. And I am pleased to have on the air with me 2 intrepid travelers, the modern cartographers, Chris and Tawny, otherwise known as Captain and Clark. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Good day to you, sir.
Oh, thank you. So how are you guys doing today?
We are living the dream.
Yeah,
Living the dream?
well.
Awesome. So where are we going to go off on our adventure this week?
Well, we did just go to India.
Ooh.
So that's fresh on the mind.
The subcontinent. So let's talk about India. Is it interesting in terms of trying to get a visa to go there?
Oh my gosh. Oh, that was half the battle, actually.
Do tell.
India is, as far as I know, the only country where they will not expedite your visa unless you walk through the door of the consulate.
Really?
Yes. Any other visa application, no matter the circumstances, takes, 5 to 10 days? Yes. We had a big miscommunication, and we actually got all of our visas back, but all of our passports back, but mine did not have a visa in it.
So Chris, you had the visa, but Tawny, you didn't?
Correct.
Did they give a reason for that?
Oh, this is beautiful.
Okay.
The reason why Tawny's address, when it was submitted on the form, didn't have northeast. Didn't have the NE at the end. So I've never in my life had to write the northeast at the end of my address, but apparently the Indian consulate needed that. And so I didn't get my visa the first time around.
Wow. I've never really thought about that either, because my mother lives on a street in Arizona, and there are several other streets in that area that are avenues, that are streets, that are drives. But as long as you have the right, house number, it always gets there. You don't need the avenue, the street, or whatever. That's right. Bizarre.
Yeah. So if you go to India, you need to have it exactly as it is on your driver's license.
Now, in terms of supplying documentation for the visa, is there anything special you have to include? I know that when we go to some other countries, we need to, pre-list all the hotels and all the flight itineraries to prove that we're leaving the country during the application process. Is that required as well?
Yes, and that's what was tricky, because we needed to have the flights for India to get our visa, but then we were told not to book our flights until we had our visa. And we were leaving extremely last minute. We knew that we were going to fly out the day that we got our visas. So it was just a mixed up process for us.
Oh gosh, and I bet just nerve wracking as well. So,
yes, we did it. Well, we did.
Yes, you did. I saw some of the lovely pictures and some of your exciting videos about it as well. So let's talk about getting there. How did you travel to India?
We actually got to fly Emirates to India, and it was the best flight of my life. The most posh experience I can imagine.
Really? So I've never flown Emirates. So what is so special about Emirates there?
Oh man, we've done a lot of airlines in our lifetime. I sound like I'm sponsored right now, but we're not. Coach at Emirates for me is like business class on any other airline.
Do tell. Why do you have that feeling, that experience?
It's just it's very comfortable. The stewardesses are all gorgeous. You get your fresh towelette and your little pack with your socks and your toothbrush and your menu. You get the menu with delicious food. It's the little things that make the long journey more acceptable. Like all of the movies and the TV selection were all free. Mm-hmm. Nice little TV right in front of you. The food is unbelievable, and it's all the free booze you can imagine.
That's always nice.
Yeah, that helps.
That's always nice. Now, with these long haul flights, now where did you depart the U.S. from?
We left from New York, and we had a layover in Dubai.
Oh, so yeah. I have a friend here in Korea that lives, he's from Dubai. He works for a space company, and he always presents these great images of Dubai, and we can't wait to have a layover there. My question is this. On your flight, did you feel that you were cramped at any time? Because it is such a long distance from New York to Dubai, and then from Dubai to your final destination isn't too long, but that long haul area, did you feel cramped at all?
This is where it was interesting, because the flight from New York to Dubai was one of the fastest, easiest flights I ever took. And I think part of it was because we left New York at 11 p.m. So once we boarded, we both passed out. And I think I woke up maybe an hour before we landed.
Wow.
Yeah, and Emirates does a nice job of that, of scheduling the flights like on a natural sleep period for whenever you're leaving.
Oh,
yeah, we
cool.
noticed that. Yeah.
Oh, that's really is helpful. In terms of arriving in India, since you had so many visa problems in the U.S., did you have any visa problems or immigration issues when you arrived?
Not a single one.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. Once you got that golden ticket, you are good.
You're good to go. Now, in terms of getting around in India, one of my favorite television shows, competition shows, is The Amazing Race. And whenever they go through India, you always see the images of the packed trains. Did you have an opportunity to ride any of the trains while there?
We did. We loved it. We rode, we had like an 18-hour train from Mumbai to Jaipur, and we rode third class AC. So it was us and I think 6 other people in our little compartment, and you have your little bed, and it's a little cramped, but it was fun.
Yeah. It was a good chance to socialize.
Oh, I bet. 18 hours, man, that's a long haul. It's been years since I've done that kind of a train trip.
Yeah, you have the KTX over there.
Well, we do have KTX, but I once did the train, the old Amtrak line from Dallas to Chicago.
Oh, nice.
Which was a long haul, and the only thing I remember that is the midnight wake-up call at Kansas City, and the conductor going through the cars announcing that we were at Kansas City. that and I was reading Bram Stoker Dracula. That's those are the 2 memories of the trip I have. So I'm actually really interested to try and ride the train in India. I think it'd be a lot of fun. Now. That's certainly one way to get around within India. What about on a smaller scale, if you're like at your city and trying to get around? What kind of methods of transportation are available?
You got 3 big ones. You got your standard AC taxi, which is a little posh for our taste.
A little more expensive.
There's the auto rickshaws, which are clutch.
Yes.
As the kids say these days. And then there are bicycle rickshaws, which I think are my favorite. Yeah, I love those.
So in terms of price, you said that the cabs are a little bit too expensive for your taste. So how much are we talking?
Well, I mean, for us, if we got a cab through a posh hotel that we happened to be staying at, we'd spend probably at least 50% more than we would if we hailed it off the street.
Yeah.
But then, rickshaw would be 50% less than that, and then the cycle rickshaw would be 50% less than that.
Perhaps a illustrative example. I would say if we from our first hotel to like the Gateway of India was a 30-minute ride?
Yes.
If we took an AC cab and it was $24, we took a rickshaw and it was $6.
Something like that.
And if we'd taken a bicycle rickshaw, it probably would have taken a day to get there.
True.
Maybe $1.
But so much more fun when you're on like when we're in the Philippines. I love taking the pedicabs.
Yeah,
you just go down and you just roll around. Although I have to say, I am one of the best negotiators for the tricycles. Because my wife likes to haggle and then just okay, that's good enough. And if I don't get the price I want, I just walk away, and then they start chasing after me. Okay, we'll take that money. We'll take that money.
We need you to come with us on all of our trips.
Oh man, taxis are my Achilles heel.
Really? Why is that?
It doesn't matter where we are. We always, at least once, pay extremely overpay for whatever form of transportation, regardless of where we are. It always happens.
It's almost like a fairy tale curse. Like when we were born, some magical creature was like, "You will have the best luck traveling ever, but as your price, taxis will take you wherever you go."
Well, as many countries as you have been and the things that you've seen, that's not so much of a bad curse, I would say.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll take it.
You mentioned a few different hotels and things. So while you were in India, what kind of places and where did you stay?
Oh, we spread ourselves over the entire spectrum. We were staying in guest houses that were $4 a night. We would stay in hotels that were $20 a night, and then we would treat ourselves every now and then to,
a 5-star palace.
So we did everything from, places where you could see imprints of the people that slept there before you, to, you know, a posh luxury villa.
So let's talk about the guest houses and the hostel type experience. What, compared to other places you've been around the world, how did they measure up?
It varied.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you'd pay the same price for, you know, these different guest houses, and some would have free Wi-Fi that was high speed, and we'd have really clean and spacious rooms with a working fan. And then another place down the street would be, you know, there was no working water or bathroom, and the sheets didn't look like they'd been cleaned for years.
Yeah.
Excellent. Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, when you were looking for places to find, did you book online, or did you just arrive in a city and say, okay, we need to stay here for the night, and then try and find some place?
We mostly, I mean, for the high-end places, we would book ahead. But for the other places, we would just ask around. And every taxi cab driver wants to recommend a good place to you.
Because they get commission.
Yeah.
Of course.
And, you know, it's not that bad because their commission is only like $1.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. And in terms of the 5-star, the luxury places you splurged for, what was that experience like?
For us, it was a real treat because we normally don't travel like that. But in India, it's affordable. It's the same price we would have paid for a Best Western here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's where, you know, people will dish out your food for you. And in one hotel, they would check up on us every 2 hours and change out our hangers.
It was almost exhausting. I just wanted to serve my own food.
Now, speaking of food, that's one of my passions when I travel. What can you tell us about the food that you got to sample in India?
Indian food is surprisingly very rich. And so I think that's, you know, you hear of Delhi belly, and I thought it was because, you know, it was unsanitary or you could get bugs or whatever from the food. But in fact, I feel like most people get sick because there's so much butter and cream that your stomachs aren't used to it. That being said, we ate almost everything we came across, and we never got sick.
True.
All right, so some of your favorite dishes on your trip.
Roadside.
Okay. On Tony's birthday, we were traveling with a friend that we met there, and he stopped at this dodgy little roadside stand, and then already we're like, all right, this is going to be good. And they give you this dish that, like, it's set on a rock so that it tilts towards you.
Mm-hmm.
And they take these little rolls that look like rocks, and they crush them. They have to, like,
With their hands, yeah.
And then they pour a curry over it, and then there's freshly chopped onions, and then they put a dollop of yak butter on it. And it is so
It was
good.
superb. I don't even know what it was. It looked awful, but it tasted delicious.
Yeah.
That does sound interesting and very, very delicious. What else did you try while you were there?
I think we sampled every curry possible. We
Every kind of paneer you could imagine.
Yes, we ended up going to the home of that man that we befriended there. He took us back to his house, and his father made us, what did he make us?
Chapati
And chicken masala.
Yo, that
And
chicken masala.
it was incredible. It was just the different spices and the flavors.
Yeah.
I gorged myself.
That sounds exciting. Now, in terms of liquid refreshment, anything unique that you tried while you were there?
Any kind of lassi that a man can envision, we drank.
Ooh. Any favorites?
Yeah, I like just the standard sweet lassi.
But I was a big fan of the banana lassi was surprising, and the apple lassi we had.
Yeah, apple lassi blew my mind.
Oh, see, you make me want to go to India all so much more. So what did you do while there? Places you went to, things that you kind of experienced.
We ended up doing kind of a Rajasthani road trip. So we visited all the rainbow cities. So each city in Rajasthan has kind of a color that it's associated with.
Mm-hmm.
So Jaipur is the pink city.
Jaisalmer is the gold city.
Jodhpur is blue. So we drove around with our new friend. He organized everything for us. And
Awesome.
yeah, it was incredible. We spent a week visiting all these different cities.
And then in the city, what did you do? Just walk around, explore, or did you?
Yeah, well, I think the focal point of each of the Rajasthani cities is that they each have an iconic fort
Mm-hmm.
that their Maharaja was famous for. So you go to the fort, and then everything that kind of echoes out from the fort, you can just walk to, and each town had just a really unique flavor.
Yeah.
So we explore them.
So describe some of the flavor of these cities.
For me, my favorite was Jaisalmer, the Gold City.
Yeah.
And it's one of the oldest inhabited medieval forts in the world.
It looks like it came straight out of Aladdin.
Yeah. Like, it rises out of the desert. It's this entire city that looks like a castle built out of gold sandstone. And, like, there's just winding, narrow, labyrinth-like streets with vendors selling stuff that you imagine was sold 500 years ago.
Oh, very cool, very cool. Anything else that you'd recommend for people to do while in India?
Go north. We went up to Amritsar, which is actually like 30 miles away from the Pakistani border, and every night there's a border closing ceremony between India and Pakistan, and it is unlike anything I've ever seen. It was like being at a big NFL football game. There's stands on either side, there's cheering and a dance-off of sorts.
Really? That sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
It was wild.
We're hoping to put together a video of that soon, I think.
We should have that up soon, yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I have to check it out. That's awesome. Chris, Tawny, thank you so much for joining me this week on the podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can keep up with all of Chris's and Tawny's adventures by surfing over to their website. The link is in the show notes. It's captainandclark.com. And, of course, you can follow them on Twitter at Captain and Clark. Again, thank you so much for joining me this week.
Thank you.
Thank you. You have a great day.
Ladies and gentlemen, that will just about do it for this week's podcast. Thank you so much to Chris and Tawny, Captain and Clark, for joining me this week on the final set course for adventure. I really do appreciate them taking their time out for me. Now, this will also be probably the last video of the year, and probably also the last video for the most part until February, when I return from vacation. So until then, not only make sure you follow me on YouTube, but subscribe to the QiRanger vlog channel, because while I'm in the Philippines on vacation, I will probably be uploading, when I can, a video or two while we're on vacation. But more importantly, follow the social streams. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Flickr. Just look for QiRanger, because at all times I will have my phone with me, and I really hope to be uploading a lot of fantastic pictures from the Philippines. The Philippines is a beautiful country, and like I did last year, especially if you're in Korea or someplace cold, it's my hope that these warm pictures will help warm your spirit and help you get through some of the gray and cold days that come with winter. So that is all I have for you this week. Be sure to keep this subscription going, because on iTunes, once I come back, I'll be sitting down on TBS EFM, and I'll be uploading the Korea excursions to the QiRanger podcast. And in February, I'll be starting the new podcast, QiRanger RTW, the National Parks, on that subscription feed as well. So all the links for the feeds are in the show notes, so make sure you click and go to those areas and add them to your RSS, add them to your iTunes. Get ready. 2013 is going to be an awesome, awesome year. But until then, have a great day. Be true to yourself. Happy New Year, and remember to be awesome.